make a start. Thank you for coming along this morning. My name is Neil Graham. I'll do some introductions first of all. My name is Neil Graham. I oversee the rec program here in the Scottsdale Phoenix Rising. The guy back with the red cap at the back there is David Scarroll. He's one of our board members who also has young children who play in the rec league. The older gentleman who you'll see scurrying around frantically is Peter Byrne, who's our referee assigner. Peter's very highly strung, so you'll see him and he'll be here and he'll be gone and he'll be all over the place. But Peter and I there he is. Peter, what year did you start in the club, Peter?
18 years ago.
So yeah, and I think I've been with the club about 18 years as well.
I've been
So
19 years.
I think you're a year longer than me. Yeah, so been with the club a long time. Chris, who you maybe met out the back there, just by way of interest, the young fella handing out your coach's gear. I was saying to him when he actually plays, I coach an under-19 boys team on the competitive side. Chris is one of my players, but his father, Pat, was a rec coach, and he was sat in this meeting some 14, 15 years ago, and doing the same thing that you guys are doing. And now Chris is as I say, a competitive player, plays for Chaparral High School, and makes me feel a little bit old to think about the fact that I stood and talked in front of his dad all those years ago. So, as I say, thank you for volunteering to coach with us this season. How many of you are coaching for the first time with us? Okay, a decent amount of you. Our recreational league, a massive part of it is the volunteer parents that step up to help coach every year. Without you guys, we would not be much use. So we certainly appreciate you stepping up to coach. I know some of you probably were willing volunteers. Some of you possibly had your arm twisted because there's nobody else available or wanted to do it. But hopefully you're going to really enjoy it either way, have a great time, and find it a really rewarding experience. So, basically the idea of this today is to give you a little bit of background information on the club, on the league, how it's all going to work, a little bit of suggestions on guidance on coaching the kids that I think most folks in this room are coaching 4, 5, 6-year-olds roughly, and then to give you a little bit about the logistics of the league and how it works every Saturday, that kind of thing. Once we get wrapped up, those of you who have not got your coach equipment, you can go through the back to get that from Chris and Peter. Once we're done, probably the easiest way to do that is actually to go out the front door, jump in your car and drive around the back and load up your car that way. But you know, as I say, once we get through that'll be the plan. So the club has actually been around since round about 1980, so quite a long time. And the original club name was Arcadia Scottsdale United Soccer Club, which is still our legal name. Early 2000s we rebranded to Scottsdale Soccer, and then maybe about 8 years ago, when Phoenix Rising, the pro team, came into existence, the owners of the pro team approached us and said, listen, we would really like to have a youth arm to the professional team. Would you guys be interested in merging? And a lot of the ownership group of Phoenix Rising had kids in our club, so it was kind of a natural sort of conversation to have. It did take quite a long time to kick around and figure out, but we ended up doing that and we became Phoenix Rising. As a result, I mean, our hub is definitely, on the youth side, is definitely here in Scottsdale. This is our club office, but we now have Phoenix Rising branches all around town, with the goal of trying to provide a Phoenix Rising soccer experience for any kid in Phoenix within a sort of 30-minute drive. So we've got a Phoenix Rising branch down in Chandler Gilbert, we've got one out in Glendale, West Valley area, we've got a couple up in Cave Creek, Anthem area, and that. But the reason I share the history is I think it's important that people know we've always been a Scottsdale Arcadia community soccer club. That's who we've always been, and I think it's important that folk. I think sometimes when people see the Phoenix Rising thing and the association with the pro side, whilst that's really cool to have that pro side affiliation, we as I say, we very much are a community soccer club based in this community. So as well as our rec program, so we'll have just under 2,000 kids play this fall. Typically in the spring season, in the rec league, we'll have maybe around 1,500 kids playing. And then on the competitive club side of things, I think we've got maybe around 5,000 kids that play in all these different regions around town. Let's see, so by a show of hands, who feels like they don't know a huge amount about soccer? You can be perfectly honest, it's fine. Okay. So what I'll tell you is, to coaching the age of kids that you're in coaching, you honestly don't need to know very, very little about soccer at all. It's a lot of herding cats, and this is just an introduction to the sport, having a little fun, getting used to kicking the ball around, trying to score some goals, and do not worry if you feel like you don't know a huge amount about it. What I can tell you is we are kind of here to support you as much or as little as you need. Some folks will feel like they've got this figured out, and that's fine. But if you do need help, we're more than willing to help you out with anything as we go through the season. And if you're struggling at any point, please reach out, and I'm more happy to give you a hand. These are some of the sort of the basics of the sport, and I think as you may be able to tell, I'm not originally from here, but I have lived here close to 20 years now, and you know, where I come from in Scotland, it's the #1 sport by a mile. It's what everybody plays. And when I came to the US and I saw the more traditional American sports, basketball, football, baseball, I was very struck by how kind of coach orientated those games are, particularly when it comes to playing the actual game. The coach is heavily involved and influential in the game. Soccer isn't really like that. There's no timeouts, for example. There's no plays as such that the coach draws up and tells players where to run and what to do. It's all about, especially once they get a little bit older, it's all about being able to anticipate and read the game and understand what's happening and make quick decisions. And to make quick decisions, you've got to kind of make them on your own in a split second, as opposed to following the directive of a coach or listening to sideline coaching. Now, the age that you guys will be coaching is really easy, just to joystick the kids around and tell them what to do, pass the ball, shoot the ball, do this, do that, and the game moves so slowly that they can comprehend those instructions, and that's one way of doing it. I think the balance I would suggest that we need to keep in mind is, once these kids get older, and hopefully a lot of the kids, your kids that you're coaching, will fall in love with the sport and want to keep playing as they get older. And once you get to, say, maybe high school age, the game is happening so fast that there isn't enough time to react to coaches' instructions. So if all your life, all you've ever known to do is follow coach's instructions and not make decisions yourself, once you get to that level, suddenly you're lost, because you've never really practiced making your own decisions, reading the game, anticipating the game, figuring out what's happening. And so I think that's the challenge when we start coaching these young kids, is trying to get a blend of giving instruction, helping them, telling them what to do, but also it's okay for them to figure some stuff out themselves. And that's how we learn, as we make mistakes and screw things up, and then we know, okay, that was a bad idea to pass the ball there, or do this or do that, and that's how we learn from it. So that's part of what we need to think about. These are some real simple new coach tips for you. I'd say pretty common sense for most folks, but for your practice session, I'd suggest you want to look like a coach, have a plan, get there early, set your cones up. When the kids arrive, lots of smiles, high fives, make it fun. The little joke we always make, especially the age of kids you're coaching, if you do not have much of a personality, I would suggest you beg, borrow, or steal one from somewhere in the next week or two, and that will be very helpful for engaging these young kids, because as you'll know, they don't have much of attention span at 4, 5, 6 years old, and so trying to keep them engaged and keep them entertained is half the battle.
On that, I have a question.
Go on.
Any tips for keeping them when they go off the rails? Cause like all this, you know, like you'll go, okay, everyone get on the line, like 2 of the kids listen. And then they're kicking, shooting goals and like is there any like tip for like getting their attention?
So actually, I'll come to that.
Okay.
I'm going to kind of slide in here, and I'll come to that.
That's
And a lot of that
Ask them
is,
to get in the line.
yeah. I mean, truthfully, as I say, I'll come to it. But the mention of the word line,
Yeah.
that's where you're going wrong.
Right.
Yeah.
Forget about lines with these.
I meant more like lining up on the end line.
Right, yeah. Good luck with that. As I say, I'll come to that shortly. But the reason I put this up here is here's the very blunt reality for you. Obviously, we typically put kids together based on whether they're pre-K, kindergarten, first grade, and what school they go to or what neighbourhood you live in. We want to try and create community teams as much as possible, neighbourhood teams. If you happen to have 1 or 2 kids on your roster who are very athletic kids, you will win every game this season. Just because those 2 athletes. And if you have no athletes, brace yourself to lose every game this season. And there really is nothing you can do about it. It's just the cards you're dealt. And at this level of recreational soccer, that's honestly all it is. I think the tough thing is we as adults who are into it and we're enthused about coaching and teaching, and here's the thing, you know, obviously that we've all heard the recent debates about participation trophies and is it a good thing, is it a bad thing, and that's a whole other conversation. But we all want to win, nobody wants to lose. Some people are definitely more competitive than others, but it sucks losing, no one wants to lose. But if you've been dealt a poor set of cards, you probably will lose most of your games, so then it becomes, well, what are we looking to achieve out of this? And these are some of the things I think you can look at in terms of identifying if your season has been successful or not. And what I can tell you is I am now of an age, sadly, where I run into kids that I used to coach and they're now in their 20s, and I might run into them somewhere in Old Town, not that I hang out in Old Town, but I'll run into them, kids in their 20s, and it's really interesting because they never mention results as memories. They never mention score lines or things they won. It's memories about people, about maybe travel tournaments you went to out of town. Do you remember when such and such's dog ran onto the field and grabbed the ball? Or do you remember when there was a car crash outside practice? Or that's the stuff that the kids remember. No one remembers winning what the scoreline was at a random game on a random Saturday in the fall. So we as adults tend to get a little caught up in the scoreline and the result because we want to win, of course. But your age of kids, within 10 seconds of the final whistle and the end of the game, the kids have completely forgotten about it. They just want to know, am I getting an ice cream? Am I getting cookies? Whose mum's got the snacks? That's all they care about. And of course we are then lying in our bed on a Saturday night, distraught that we got destroyed 7-0. My God, I'm terrible. I suck as a coach. What am I going to do? So I would just urge you to try and keep perspective based on, as I say, the hand of cards that you're dealt. Like I mentioned, we are here to support you as much or as little as you need. Some of the stuff that we do offer is up there if you're interested. A new feature that we've just literally just finished is called our Rise and Rec Playbook. And we'll email that information to you. It's a pretty cool, basically it's like lesson plans and curriculums that you can have it on your phone. And there'll be like a login piece for you. So it kind of looks like this, and you would log in, and this is a kind of little demo of what it looks like. So you say you were in kindergarten, you want to do an exercise on dribbling, and then there's videos in there, and it shows you how it all works, just to give you ideas on age-specific type coaching. So we literally we've been talking about this for years, trying to get together, and it's just a bit of a work in progress. We'll keep adding to it as we go, but hopefully it will be helpful for you guys. I'll try and go back here. So that's new this year, we'll get that sent out to you. If at any point this season you wanted to have one of our professional coaches who are all licensed coaches come out and show you what an age-specific session with your team looks like, we can try and tee that up. Sometimes it's a bit tricky in terms of, for example, most of our coaches are coaching their own teams on a Thursday. So Thursday's a big practice day, so Thursday's a tricky one. But depending on what night that you have practice, we can arrange for somebody to come out and give you a hand with that. There are also the governing body of soccer in the US is called the US Soccer Federation. There's another group called the United Soccer Coaches, which is more of a coach-based organisation. But both of those groups do great online coach certifications, and they're maybe like a couple of hours, and they give you some great ideas. So if you have an interest and you really want to get into your coaching, those are some great options there. We'll send out more information on that too. Let me move on. Couple other things. So the image on the left is the Arizona Soccer Association, which governs soccer in the state of Arizona. Those are some coach offerings that they have right now. If you want to go down that pathway, you certainly don't have to. I'm really, this is probably the 2% of you that are really soccer junkies and want to do your soccer coaching. You don't need these to coach rec soccer, never mind 4, 5, 6-year-olds. I'm just putting it out there if that's an interest. But some other cool things we have is the pro team have host youth nights. The next one they've got is in a week's time. It's a really fun experience to take your kids down there and watch the pros play. If you're interested in that, they do kind of specials for kids in the club. Another one is the ASU women's team. A good friend of ours is who used to coach in the club is the assistant coach there, and he sent us an email a few weeks ago saying, hey, you can bring any of your kids for free if you want to come watch a game. So especially for the young girls, it's an awesome experience to go down there and see that the highest level D1 women's soccer playing, and it's kind of right on our doorstep. So now we're going to just kind of touch on the age group specifics in terms of.
On the ASU tickets, do you just go and tell them you're Phoenix Rising, or?
I think there's a pre-registration thing,
Okay.
so we'll send you an email on that.
Cool, thanks.
And get you teed up. So we'll just kind of go through each age group, what the character, and obviously the handout kind of contains most of this information, so I'll not go through it in great detail because you've got the handout, plus we'll email this out anyway. But the basic premise is to kind of have the building blocks of pre-K play 3v3, kindergarten play 4v4, first grade, second grade play 4v4, but now they have a referee. At pre-K and kindergarten, the coaches are allowed on the field to help kind of move them around, help them out. And then once they get into third grade, they move to 7v7, and then once they get 6th, 7th, 8th grade, they move 9v9. So it's, as I say, the focus when they're young is to have as much contact with the ball as possible. We're not too worried about trying to pass the ball or spread out. You will lose your mind if you start shouting spread out or pass the ball to 4 or 5-year-olds because they just won't do it. It's just where they're at cognitively, and maybe around 6, 7 years old, the more advanced players will start to understand the notion of spreading out and passing. 4 or 5-year-olds, waste of time. Whoever's got the ball, it's that player against everybody else in the field. That's all it is. So, as I say, it's in the handout there. I think for your age, I would say the key things are every player should have a ball all the time. I think you want to focus on lots of just fun games. There's a term that we've used over the years called adventure soccer, whereby you take a game and you theme it to whatever a cartoon that your kids like watching. I'm aging myself here by saying 20 years ago when I was working with little kids, everything I did was themed around Shrek for some obvious reasons, but all my games were to do with Princess Fiona and Donkey and setting somebody free from the castle and staying away from Lord Farquhar, and so there's no notion of a drill and dribbling round a cone and back. It's all to get the kids' imagination and get them, and they're totally engaged in this sitting, for instance, showing a free from Lord Farquhar type game, and that's how you kind of keep them engaged. So I would say doing as many of those types of activities as possible is your best bet, and as often as possible. Basically, I think, as I say, the kids should have a ball at their feet the whole time, and then maybe at the end of practice you do a little scrimmage, 3v3, 4v4, that's like the real game. And as another idea, if you've got that little scrimmage at the end, rather than worrying about when the ball goes out of bounds to the side or behind the goal, if you have a supply of, if you're stood at the kind of midfield area and have a supply of balls, anytime the ball goes a little too astray, you just shout new ball and you throw a new one in, and the kids all go chasing that one, all 6 of them will all go chase it. And that way you keep the game flowing, you keep them moving, you keep them practicing touching the ball, versus anytime that if the ball goes out, you'll waste 1-2 minutes trying to get them all to stop, get the ball on the line, get them all where they're supposed to be and get the ball back in. So you end up wasting half your time on a restart, as opposed to, we just want them moving and touching the ball and playing. So I think it's all about, this age is all about your expectations, and I think most coaches of 4 and 5 year olds come into it with expectations of what they might do, these players being a little high, and then if after the first few practices you realise, okay, we can forget about working on our offside trap, that's not going to work for these ones. So the golden rule up here is the 3 L's: laps, lines, lectures. I think all age groups we say avoid laps, lines and lectures. I think it's a very old school way of coaching, and probably a lot of us, that was how we were coached when we were kids. But I think there's a lot more creative and fun ways to coach kids. The notion of doing laps, I mean, laps is, you might run laps if you're training to run cross country, but you know, soccer's all about short, sharp little bursts of speed, changing direction. Just slogging your way around the field is just painful. No one enjoys that. It's kind of miserable for anybody doing it. I don't think there's any need to do it at all. And then the lines, the classic line drill that I see all the time is, let's say a coach lines up where Peter is, and then there's a player here with a ball and a line of 10 players behind him, and the player plays the coach the ball, the coach lays it off, the player takes a shot, player goes to get their ball and goes to the back of the line. The only person getting repetition in that exercise is the coach, because he's the one that's constantly touching the ball. The kids in line, they get a shot and then they have to wait 5 minutes before they get the next shot. So there's lots of different activities we can do that don't involve lines, and we keep the kids moving, that kind of thing. And then the lecture thing piece is, it's so tempting because we want to tell these kids so much, right? And there's so much to learn. As you know, though, these kids don't have much of an attention span, and you know, after 30 seconds, 45 seconds, you've probably lost them. So really think about when you're talking with them, make it short and sweet, a couple of key points, kind of move it on. Any questions on that? Go on, Lindsay.
Attention span, it's an hour-long practice for pre-K, is
Oh,
that?
no, I'd say pre-K, if you can get 45 minutes, you've done very well.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd say, I mean, to be honest, even half an hour might be sufficient. And I think it's one of those where you kind of, to some extent, call it as, if you've had a half an hour, it's been a struggle, okay, we'll call it a day.
Yeah, we're done.
But if they're into it and they're engaged, and you get to the 40th minute, okay, we'll keep it going another 5 minutes. So,
Okay.
yeah.
If we are a kinder team and we have a couple pre-K players on the team, is that still okay since it seems kind of similar, or should we recommend them being on a pre-K team?
Well, to be honest, you probably shouldn't have those players on your team. I'm not sure. We can figure that, but I know some parents can be a little sneaky when it comes to being honest of what grade their child is in when they register, because they want to be a team with their friends. But to be honest, at this age, it's not really too big of a deal. So I think it'll be fine. but see how it goes, and if they're struggling, we could always slide them onto a PK team if they're struggling with that. So the pre-K kids, 3v3, 6-minute quarters. Kindergarten kids, 4v4, 8-minute quarters. There's no penalties, nothing like that. There are no throw-ins. When I go up to Thunderbird and watch the little kids playing, I love it when I see coaches, the ball goes 3-4 feet out of bounds, just keep playing, it's fine. Don't, if it goes a couple of feet up across the line, we'd rather we keep playing rather than trying to corral them all and restart it. Even sometimes you see them go behind the goal. I think if they get too close to the street, then probably stop it then. But I think the more the ball's in play and the more they're moving and engaged, I think that's a good thing. There's no refs, so I think it's a good idea if you maybe chat with your opposing coach at the start of the game, make sure you're on the same kind of page in terms of what you're going to call, because everybody's a little different, and I know there's some coaches that when that ball goes out of bounds, they want to call it, and so it's better to have that conversation at the start of the game and just kind of make sure you're on the same page there. This is the first and second grade characteristics. I'll not go through it all, because you've got the handout. Similar kind of deal, just slightly more, a progression really. And I think when they're first and second grade, they can maybe start thinking about doing activities in pairs, which might involve passing the ball. Whether or not they'll actually do that in a game is another matter, but I think you can start to introduce it when they're 6-7 years old. Similar kind of deal. The thing with how many first grade coaches do we have in here? Quite a few. So I think the key rules for it to highlight. I've drawn a field up here. So if you get a goal kick, the other team have to retreat behind the halfway line. So the idea behind that rule is to encourage teams to, rather than just boot the ball down the field as hard as they can and crapshoot, see who gets the ball, it's to try and buy the team that has the ball, that has the goal kick, buy them a little time to actually pass the ball and see if they can connect passes and work their way down the field. So if this player here's got the ball, you might have one player here, maybe one player here, maybe one player here, and now this player hopefully is going to try and play a pass either there or there, and from there they can either dribble or pass and try and advance down the field. Of course, what happens is if you've got 4 players up here waiting, as soon as this player touches the ball, the cavalry is coming charging, but it kind of defeats the purpose if this player just smashes the ball as hard as they can. The idea of the rules to try and encourage kids to practice trying to pass the ball, possess the ball, work their way up the field. I think in general, again, it's a slightly old school way of coaching the game to just launch it forward and hope that the most athletic player kind of gets on the end of it and scores a goal. Now, for sure, you can, if you've got an athletic, fast kid, you could play that way and you'll probably win games, no doubt. At this level, you win a lot of games. But as I say, when you get to that, say, high school level, that just doesn't work. So those kids, if that's all they've ever known, they're lost because they just relied on a pure athleticism and launching it forward, and they don't really know how to. They never practiced possessing the ball, trying to pass, move, trying to work it down the field. Do you have a question?
Goal kick started first grade?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, first grade. So that's what it looks like from a goal kick. The other slightly contentious rule every season that gets folks all hot and bothered is there's no goalkeepers, and obviously a goalkeeper would use their hands. So sometimes what happens is a coach will designate a player to just stand there all game and try and block the goal. Now technically they're not being a goalkeeper because they're not using their hands. Our suggestion is you should not do that because it's not really much fun for that kid for a start. They're not really involved in the game. All that happens is when the ball comes near them, they boot it away. Rather, if you've got the ball in another half of the field, this player here should be up here and as a support for these players. If the ball pops out, they're engaged, they're involved, they can play. Now, no doubt, if you lose the ball, you're going to hustle back and try and stop the other team from scoring. I think where some folks get confused is in the latter scenario, when a player drops back to protect the goal, oh, he's a goalie. Well, he's not just going to let you score. He's not just going to stand out the way of the goal and say, have at it. We're going to try and block the goal. But all we're saying is, you should not just have a player stood in front of the goal the whole game. So hopefully that makes sense. Let's see. Guidelines for success up there will stand you in good stead. What have we got next? So just some other rec programs that might be of interest to you. The rec skills clinics are in November. Those are, we have our professional coaching staff come out and coach on those. And for you guys that are volunteer coaches, your kids can attend for free. There's no cost for your kids. For other non-volunteer coaches, I think it's $20 to come along per clinic, or $50 for all three. They can sign up for that. We will send out a separate sign up for our coaches, where you can basically give us a head count, and you don't have to pay. You just say, we're planning on coming to this clinic this Sunday. The All-Star program is a little program for if your kid is really into soccer and you're thinking about, we want to go that competitive club pathway at some point. The All-Star program is a cool way of exploring that, because it gives you like a 2-month taste of what the competitive club world looks like in January and February. So you can play the fall rec season, try it for All-Stars, play in the All-Star team for 2 months, and then you can come back and play in the Spring Rec League if you're really gung-ho about soccer. The Rising Stars program is run at the same time as the All-Star program, and normally we get about 200-300 kids every year. And it's a Friday night skills program. Sunday we play little small-sided games. Again, it's all our professional coaching staff that show up and coach those kids. So I think for that one and that one, it's quite useful for you guys to maybe help give you some ideas in terms of age-appropriate games, sessions, and watch how the coaches interact with the kids. And then the other thing we have here for pre-K kindergarten, that's not for you quite yet. It's just for first grade and older. We have an optional end of season tournament, December 13th and 14th, and we just started doing that. Well, we actually used to do it many years ago and stopped for a number of years, and we restarted it 2 years ago, and it's been really successful. The kids love it. We basically bring them in and we play shortened games. So maybe if you're first grade, say you're first grade girls, you might come in from 9 AM to 11 AM, and in that time you might play 3 or 4 games that are all just like 15 minutes long. And if you're the 2 top teams, you play in a final at the end and the winner gets a trophy. And it's normally we hold it at our soccer facility, which is down kind of like 202 101, and it's freshly overseeded, so it's beautiful grass, and it's a really cool, fun experience for the kids.
What are the age groups for the All-Star program?
Oh, so the All-Stars, they're under 7s, under 8s, under 9s, under 10s, so it's 4 age groups. The only thing to keep in mind is in the competitive club world, they play by birth year as opposed to school grade. However, next year US Soccer have decided to change, and I think it was about 8 years ago they moved from school grade to birth year, and we decided in our rec league to stay with school grade because we felt kids wanted to play with our friends, which we feel was a smart play. They stuck with birth year for 7-8 years in the competitive club world, and then they decided that was a bad idea, didn't work very well at all, and they're going back to school grade. So this year All-Stars will be birth year, but this time next year it'll be back to school grade again. Okay, so season ahead. Hopefully you've seen your game schedules in Baiga by now. They just got put out the other day. You'll have seen the email that went out for signing up for practice field space. I think it's important you don't have to sign up to use any of the fields that we have permits for. But you can if you want to. Some folks use their backyard, some people use a local community field. But if you would like to, there are certain fields that we have permits for via the City of Scottsdale and the school district, and we put them on that sign up. So if you want to sign up for a space there, you can do so. I think my understanding is many years ago we had an arrangement with the City of Scottsdale whereby they don't actually run youth sports programs for their community. I mean, they reached out to certain clubs, whether it's baseball, soccer, whatever, us being the soccer one, and they said, well, you can be our recreational soccer league. So they give us a certain amount of fields based on how many kids we have in our program who have Scottsdale addresses or attend Scottsdale schools. And they've really started tightening up on it now, actually, because they're getting a lot of complaints from residents who go to the city to say, I want to book a field for my adult frisbee game, and they say, well, we've got nothing because it's all booked out by our youth sports partners. And then that resident walks past Thunderbird Park on a Thursday night, and the lights are on, and there's no one there, and they've been told they can't use it. So there's a little bit of a tightening up going on right now to try and make sure that whatever fields that are booked are being used, and if not, we should give them back. So probably the next week or so, once everyone's had a chance to sign up for what they need, we'll take a look at, okay, what does it look like, and if we have to give fields back, we give them back. The only ones that kind of need special attention are if you use Echo Canyon or Hopi or Anasazi, or is it Tavan? Tavan, how do you pronounce it? I can't remember. Tavan. So those require the school district to have custodial people there. So we've got to be, they get frustrated if we book a field and they're paying somebody to be there and then nobody shows up. So we just got to be on it and say to them, hey, it's such and such's birthday, we're going to get pizza tonight, we won't practice. We let them know they don't have staff there. And for those facilities, they want us to put a padlock with a combination lock on it, make sure everyone gets locked up and taken care of. So we'll for those folks who sign up for those school facilities, we'll send out an email with those instructions. Yeah.
For using an SUSD field, do we need to like bring our own practice goals, or is there stuff already there, or what would you suggest for that?
It kind of depends where you are, to be honest.
Okay.
Which were you talking about?
Mountain View.
So Mountain View, you've obviously that there is goals there,
Yeah.
which they won't have nets on them, but there are 7v7, 9v9 goals in Mountain View. The trouble is we obviously would all love to have a large practice area,
Yeah.
but we just don't have the field space especially at certain days and times. So it may be that, say, Mountain View 2, the one next right adjacent to the tennis courts, that's probably divided into 4 areas. So it might mean you don't get to use the goals. You're certainly unlikely to get an entire half and a big goal because there's just too many teams that want to be out practicing at a certain time. I'd say that the later you go in the evening, the more likely you're going to have a bigger field space and a big goal and maybe a half. So it kind of depends where you are, and certain nights are lighter than others. But I mean, for the age group you guys are coaching, obviously you're playing maximum 4v4 the weekend anyway. We've got these little pub goals that we sell for a subsidised price. You'll see them through the back there. They're quite handy for practice. I use them with the under 19 boys. We use those a lot. We practice 3 times a week, maybe only 1 practice a week do we actually get a full-size goal to shoot on. The other 2 practice a week, there's not enough field space, so we're kind of in a 30 by 40, we use small goals, that kind of thing. Yeah.
How do we let you know if we signed up for a field that we no longer need? I signed up for Anasazi or for Aztec to discover that most of my team's coming from Arcadia.
Okay.
And so I moved us to a different field, and so now I've got a couple different fields reserved, and I couldn't figure out how to drop the first one.
So what grade are you?
First grade.
First grade, so that is MAC. Max, the age group coordinator,
Okay.
that you'll be dealing with. Just shoot him an email, let him know, and
Okay.
he'll be able to adjust that.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
No question.
Yeah,
Sorry, just on the sign up piece, I signed up, should I expect to hear back about whether my request was met, or should I just assume that I
Yeah,
got it
if-
and just power through it?
yeah, if you signed up, then you're good, you've got it. Yeah.
How many practices a week should we do for pre-K? Just one?
I'd say one. If you try and do more than one, your hair will not look like that. I would just go one and leave it like that. At some point, you should get a background checker from our club registrar, Polly. She has been sent all your information. You should get that from her along with a concussion course to take. You only do the concussion course once. So if you're a returning coach, you did it last year or 2 years ago, you're fine. You need to do it again. But we ask that everybody does it once, just to say that they've done that course. Yeah.
If we did it like for baseball this
Yeah.
spring, can we send you that confirmation? Is it the same course or is it?
That's fine. You could, your age group coordinator, you can just send them that,
Okay,
and that's fine.
alright.
So are they gonna send that email to us?
Yes, you should get I don't think she's done it yet, but she should get to that hopefully shortly. The City of Scottsdale rain line number is up there also, just in case the reason, and they have all their field status on their website too. Obviously, we're still maybe a little bit in monsoon season. The first few weeks, sometimes if there's rain, the city might say we're closing all of our fields. They'll update that rain line number or their website, so that's all that we use, to be honest. We just keep an eye on it, and if we see the fields are closed, we'll send you guys an email or a note via BIGA. But if you want to check directly yourself, often if they've had rain in the overnight or in the morning, they often update it by about 2 p.m. Where it gets tricky, of course, is if the storm's coming in the evening, then it's. But the general rule is they ask us if there's standing water on their fields, then you should get off, otherwise we'll just tear it up and ruin it. So, and hopefully you're all familiar with BIGA, which is the app and program we use for registrations. Your rosters are in there, your game schedules in there. Good idea to have that on your phone and share, and we've got a little video tutorial on BIGA we can send you guys to share with your families. It's really easy once you get the hang of it, and it's really helpful for communicating, and game schedules are kept kind of live. Any communication gets out there real fast. Let's see. Game day. So pre-K kindergarten in the fall play at Thunderbird Park. In the spring season, we move them down to Cochise because there's less kids, so there's more room. But the next couple of slides, there's a map of Thunderbirds which will kind of show you where to park, where not to park, that kind of thing. First grade, second grade play at Cochise. At Thunderbirds, typically you'll have everything set up for you when you arrive. The pre-K kids will have pub goals set up. The kindergarten kids will have kind of white aluminum sort of 4 or 5 foot wide goals. They'll be set up with nets on them, so everything should be set up for you at Thunderbird when you arrive. We'll normally have a couple of high school kids or college kids that will be underneath a tent. They can help you with any kind of simple questions, and they're paid to set everything up and put everything away at the end of the day. Down at Cochise, it's a slightly bigger operation. There's a lot more teams. So what we'll pull up every morning. The guys will be there. They'll pull out all the goals, and then they'll put a box with the nets and the corner flags in the middle of the field. So if you've got the first game of the day, we would ask if you can put the nets and the goals. It's really helpful for us. I would suggest you as coaches should put that on your parents and say, hey, I'm going to focus on the warm-up. If somebody, a mum or a dad is going to stood around, hey, can you do me a favour and put that net up? That'd be great. And then at the end of the day, if you get the last game of the day, it's really helpful if you can, the 4v4 goals, if you can just grab your goal and drag it over to the perimeter fence where we get it locked up. So it's really helpful for us if you can help out with that. Let me see, I think I've got a little video here on soccer etiquette. Hopefully you can hear it. got. Volume. I don't know where that is.
I try the TV volume.
Oh, maybe that's what it is. No, that's not. The sort of thing is, I did a dry run for this yesterday, and the volume worked perfectly, and now it's not working. But I think the soccer etiquette thing is more. If you're, let's think, if you're pre-K or kindergarten, for example, we say, hey, coaches can go out on the field and help move the kids around. But if you don't need to, I would maybe just stay off. And certainly, what I've observed over the years is, you know, sometimes you get some dad who's 6'5" and he stood by the goal barking orders, and for a little 4-year-old boy or girl, it can be quite intimidating to see this big dude stood behind the goal and like I'm supposed to dribble the ball towards that guy barking orders. So I think if you don't need to be on the field, try and stay off the field, but if you need to go on there and help them out, you should. I'd definitely not have more than one coach on there at a time, otherwise it just gets a bit chaotic. So try and stay off the side. I think with the first grade games, you're not on the field as a coach, you've got to stay off. You can only go on the field if the referee asks you to come on the field, and that would only be if there was an injured player, which is rare. So if you are, typically the way we set up, so for pre-K and kindergarten, you can kind of situate yourselves wherever you want on the sideline. They're young, they want to be around their parents, it's easier that way. First grade, what we say is, hey, all the parents are on one side, and then one team are situated here, and one team are situated here. And that's the players and coaches only on this sideline, and each team should have no more than 2 coaches. When we get in a scenario of having 3-4 coaches marching up and down sidelines, it's madness, and the kids are just don't know what's going on because there's just so many voices shouting instructions, and it's a chaotic atmosphere. But for example, if this is your little coach's technical area here, from a soccer etiquette point of view, you shouldn't be wandering down this coach's sideline. You should just stay in your own half here. That can be quite annoying, frankly, if you're trying to coach here and this coach here marching up and down in front of you. It's not really the done thing. The blowout game thing is not really much fun for any team if you're getting smashed. Well, obviously if you're the team that's getting smashed, it's not fun if you're losing 10-0. But it gets to a certain point, it's not even that much fun for the kids smashing the goals, because even they start to realise this kind of sucks, they're terrible and we're just killing them. So sometimes it happens, like I said before, if one team's stacked with athletes and one team's not, it's going to happen. I think when they're pre-K and kindergarten, there's not probably too much you can do about it, other than you can maybe say to the other coach, hey, throw in an extra player. It's fine, let's play 4v3 or 5v4 or you know, 5v3 or 6v4. It's fine, it's no big deal. If it makes it a bit more competitive and it makes it a bit more enjoyable, I think that's the main thing. And you know, when it's first and second grade and it's 4v4, again, once you're 5 goals up, the game is won. Nobody's really coming back from. If you're 5-0 up, it's highly unlikely that anyone's going to come back from that. So fear not, the win is in the bag, you're good. But maybe say to their coach, hey, chuck another player on here, let's make this a bit more competitive. Once we get to the older age groups, sort of 7v7, we actually, it was, at one point, I was thinking about it earlier, Pete, at one point it was a rule, we've kind of gone by the wayside, but there used to be a rule where you got more than a full 4-goal lead, the referee would say to the coach, hey, throw in an extra player. Maybe it's something we ought to think about again, but it's just, there's lots of things you can, as I say, pre-K kindergarten, you're limited because they're not going to listen, but you know, first grade, you could say to kids at halftime, hey, we're killing this team. You guys are amazing. Second half, I only want to see you score with your weaker foot. That's my little rule. I want to challenge you and see, can you guys, if you're right-footed, can you only score with your left foot? Or can you only score once you've connected 4 passes? So you're challenging your own kids to improve and get better, but you're kind of pumping the brakes a little bit in terms of the humiliation and embarrassment of 6, 7-year-olds who are not very good. As I say, it's recreational soccer is an introduction to the sport. We want everybody to enjoy coming and playing. Everyone wants to win. It sucks to lose, no doubt about it. But I think there's a fine line between being, what is sport and what is competition, and what is unnecessary humiliation of young children. It can be managed to avoid that. Yeah.
So quick question, when it comes, so in the pre-K, I've got like 8 kids on the team, the other team's similar, and they're like, yeah, we just, instead of 3v3, let's do 4v4, just simply because it's like 6 minutes is, the kids are only getting 2-4 minutes, each in a
Yeah,
game.
absolutely.
Okay, so you can kinda up that with the preschool age to help them just like.
Yeah,
run
that's
up
why
down and run around.
have that conversation with the coach before you start, and feel free to. There's rules in place, for a reason, but there's also flexibility, and there's certain days that there might be, I don't know, a school event on, and both teams are light on numbers. You can play down, or maybe you've both got bigger rosters for whatever reason. Add a couple of players. It's no. If you're at the point where you've got a referee, chat to the referee beforehand. We can be flexible and use some common sense with it. The rules are there, but hopefully, as I say, common sense can prevail too. If you do experience something that you feel is really poor behaviour, please let us know. And typically in our experience, what we've found is it's best to let us know the day after. In the heat of the moment, emotions are running high. Sometimes we get emails from people. I'm reading the email timestamp, and I'm like, this is like at half time they've written this email. But if you've seen something that has upset you and you feel is really poor behaviour, let us know the next day, and we'll take a look at it. And typically, what we do is, whether it's Peter or Simon's normally here. He's our operations director at Cochise. He's attending his niece's wedding today, so he's not here. But Simon and Richard and a few of the guys that patrol the fields at Cochise, you'll see them in the golf cart there. Typically what we'll do, if we get word that there's a coach that's a little intense or a little overly competitive and kind of needs reined in a little bit, we'll go watch them. So if you notice that the golf cart is at your game a lot, that probably means that folks have suggested that you might be a little overly into it. Peter, would you like to chat about referees briefly for the? This doesn't affect the PreK and kindergarten coaches, but it'll,
right?
Well, there's some first grade coaches in here.
Yeah. Okay, but I actually have 2 roles. Last year I was assigned the toughest role of all. I only ever coached 7 through 18, but I was assigned to coach my granddaughter. Quite the challenge. So the team ended up calling, the team there ended up calling Sparkles. There was a lot of sparkles, no goals. And the first game, after me having a sleepless night, girls come out in the field and they decide collectively that they're going to watch the game rather than participate. So I was like horrified. All my strategy of coaching and you don't need to go on the field. In my case, had I not gone on the field, they wouldn't have moved. So it was a disaster, the whole thing. Granddaughter pretty much did not play. I have to share you a photograph. So here's a photograph, right, of my granddaughter. Now, you would think that she's really skillful there, but I can assure you, this was the reality. Here she is bending down to pick the ball up as she goes. End of season, this was us. They went home happy, I went home with less grey hair, frustrated, and gone. Any coaching experience or any courses I've ever gone to, not a single jot did it count. But they had a great time. That's me anyway. I am coaching again this year. So I do want to thank you for that, because the reality is, as Neil said, if you would not step up, there would be no program. We're only facilitating. I actually sent out a message to the parents and they haven't even got back to me yet. I'm like, okay. So anyway, the more important role is I'm the referee assigned. So, refereeing is a major problem nationwide. We cannot get referees. I don't know whether Neil introduced this. We suggested 3 or 4 seasons ago, why don't we take our competitive players and get them to ref the games? So they're not certified, right? It's been a huge success, because we're now, is it 4? I lose track of
2 or 3 years.
2 or 3 years. So they came in initially and they were very timid. The result is that there's a number of them now being certified. So let me ask you a question. What do you think the number 1 complaint is about referees? The number 1 thing I get.
Parents.
Parents.
Yeah.
Well, the number 1 complaint I get from coaches about referees. You guys get so annoyed when they do this. And the reason they're doing that is because they're 12 years of age and they're petrified to do this. Right? It means that all the attention's on them and they go, oh shit. I got all the parents looking at me, granddad screaming, play both ways, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, point is, we have a 0 policy around approaching a ref. 0. They're children. Bear in mind they're children. It's their first time they've had the opportunity to earn the money, and they're so proud of themselves. And when they step out on the field for the first few games, they are petrified. Dad's looking on, or mum, and in all likelihood, like our players, they're making the wrong decision. On 4v4, it doesn't matter. Who cares if they got, there's no 4v4 game that I've ever observed in all the years I've done this, that there's been a vicious, outrageous attack. No, what's happened, and this is what happens, by the way. Here's what happens. Granddad will get up and go, that's an outrageous tackle, you gotta call it. No, what happened was the 2 children happened to hit into each other. They're clumsy and one's fallen on the ground. It's amusing to listen to parents and grandparents when the child falls. And then of course the child then reacts. Okay, that's happens all the time. They fall, they're going to be good. So what I will say to you is, as always, I guarantee you 95% of the coaches are just brilliant. We always get the stupid coach that makes it difficult for everybody else. And we're very good at dealing with it. Neil, Simon, they're out, well, not Neil so much, but Simon and the boys are out. Well, he's only because he's competitive and he's not always there. But we do have a team, and we've even taken it a step further. We now have college players that will patrol the fields to watch parents' behavior. So, and by the way, I encourage you, if you are feeling uncomfortable with other parents' behavior and you don't want to confront that, I get that. I totally get that. But you can always have contact one of the students that are patrolling, contact me. We're more than happy to do it. So, yeah, we're very, very, very protective of our referees. And by the way, they do learn. Like everybody, everybody is learning. The whole thing is a learning curve. And they're just, by the way, they've come from a competitive game, or they could even come from a recreational game, and they change into their referee gear, and they go, and they're so proud. They're so proud. Any questions on the referee? Brilliant.
Perfect. I think, the thing is, we just need your help with that, please. And like Pete says, I think, 95% of parents out there are fantastic. It's the usual squeaky wheels that are pain in the rear. But we just need to make sure that our refs are not being abused. They're doing their best out there. They're not very good. That's the truth. A lot of them are not very good, but it's part of the game. It's part of the game. Even when I'm coaching the under-19 boys, we get refs that are not very good, and the boys will complain, and I'm like, listen, we're not blaming referees. We're not, you know. I think you give the kids an easy pass and an easy way out by blaming somebody else. Look at yourself in the mirror. You make mistakes too. It's part of the game. Even if you're watching the professionals play on TV, they make mistakes. Those referees too. You have a question?
No, I was just gonna say, it helps to also tell your kids to like leave the refs alone. It's not always just the parents, the kids can get frustrated if the refs are making mistakes or not doing things, and you just tell them.
Absolutely.
They're learning too, it's just part of the game. They're not
It
gonna
is.
win or lose based on a call at this age.
Yeah, it's always been part of the game. It's referees miss things, you know.
Let me add one thing to that, and this is a fact. Your behavior as a coach will dictate your sideline. So, if a coach, we've seen this before, now, not at your age, but at the older ages, start to go crazy, guess what the parents start to do? They start going crazy. So you can dictate it. I know that for a fact. When I was coaching competitive, I would tell my parents, like, don't look at me now. I'm the coach, I'll do it. If you've got a complaint, come and see me then. But we've seen it where coaches are going ballistic, and then the parents go ballistic, and then the kids go ballistic. So there's a huge knock-on effect there on how you present yourself as a coach, in your temperament, and how, you know, again, 95% is fine, and we're always trying to do the 5%, but we have to deal with it.
Alright, we are almost done. We're over an hour now, but these are the maps of the two facilities we use. Thunderbird is here. Kindergarten fields are here. Pre-K fields are here. There is a parking lot there. There's one there, one there. We will make sure this gate is open so it's easy to get in. A lot of people will park in the dirt gravel area here. Please do not park on the basketball court. The city and residents get really upset about that, understandably. Typically we'll ask our high school kids to put cones up here to stop people doing that, but somebody will always try and do it. The police have been known to patrol, and they'll ticket you if you're parked there. But there is plenty parking up here. Folks just tend not to use it because they think they have to walk. But we'll have this gate open, so it's a 2-minute walk. Cochise, the first grade fields will all be down here. Our kind of HQ, Ref 10, Operations 10 is here. Everybody wants to park here. It becomes a cluster, and often these parking lots on this side and the west side of Cochise are often not wide open, but there's often plenty of spaces. So I would suggest if you're playing in these fields or even here, try and park there, and I'd really only park here if you're playing in Mountain View. Otherwise, again, the people park in crazy places, and the police will come and put tickets on cars. We'll send these maps out, of course, and we'll send out information to all the parents at a time. Unfortunately, the parking situation just isn't great, just the volume of folks that are there. We've tried various things over the years in terms of staggering game times, trying to figure out what flow of people are leaving and arriving and who's there at the same time, and
there is another factor there that we have realized over the years. Grandparents coming, uncles, out of town. So we have to space those games out, but once the grandparents and uncles and aunts and neighbours all come to the games, it gets a bit tough on the parking.
Quick one that I added this slide because this was an issue last year for the first time in I don't know how many years, the heat issue, and it was a real tricky one to navigate. I think did we end up cancelling the first round of games last year? I think we did because it was so hot. It's a really tricky one because we get battered by the tough guys who say, this is Arizona, we've got to teach our kids to be tough, and we've got to play. And then we get the slightly more delicate parents who are outraged that we're scheduling games, and this is dangerous for our children. So trying to keep everybody happy is tough. What we use as a club on all sides is this wet bulb globe thing that US Soccer provide, and it looks at the temperature, the time of day, the humidity, and when it hits a certain point that US Soccer have told us that is dangerous to be outside playing, then we'll call it. So it's not our judgment, it's what and US Soccer have come up with this guide, and it depends which part of the country you're in, and hopefully we're not affected this year, but it could be that the first couple of weekends it might be close, and so maybe it might be a case of, hey, we can play the morning games, but by the time we get to noon it's too hot, we have to cancel the games in the afternoon. As I say, hopefully not. Last year was the first time we ever had to deal with that, and I've, in 20 years I've been involved in the rec league, it was the first time, so who knows if that's just how it's going to be, but we can send you this information too, you can share with your parents, but that's what we'll go by. Hopefully you've all ordered your uniforms online for your kids. I'd remind your parents to do that. Once we get wrapped up here, if you haven't got your coaching equipment, you can go through the back there or drive around to the back and we'll get you teed up with that. You get a coach's shirt, you get cones, pennies, mesh bag, a ball. The ball is really for your kids. You can use it as a game ball if you want, but you don't have to. It's just to kind of throw it in there. We do sell these pub goals. I think online they're probably over $100. We sell them for $80. These are what the pre-K kids use for goals. I use them for practice too. They're very handy. Come in a bag of 2. Great for scrimmaging. We actually, this year, we have a bunch of leftover stuff that our competitive teams used. If anyone's interested, we've got benches for sale and team tents for sale, but you feel free to have a look when you're back there.
Can we pick up the puck goals anytime, like we decide, hey, sometime later this week to pick them up, we just drop by this office?
Sure, yeah, no problem to do that. These are the rosters here, so if you haven't already, I'd reach out to your parents, introduce yourself, let them know when you'll be practicing. The key thing is there's a little bit of fluidity in rosters, because obviously when parents find out what day you're practicing, it may be that somebody has piano lessons that day. Wednesday's the one day they can't practice, so we'll try and move them to another roster. So most age groups are pretty much maxed out at this point. So normally we're able to place everybody on the wait list, but we do have a handful of kids that there's just no space, unfortunately. So, but it may be if kids drop, because of practice days, we can slide them in. So maybe your age group coordinator reaches out if a kid drops, hey, we've replaced them with another player.
Yeah, just so a question in that respect. I have a team, kindergarten girls. Kids were all from the same class, but then one kid whose school didn't have a team signed up. I reached out to the mom. It turns out kid can't come to the practice the day that we're doing. Is there a way? How do I go about getting her onto another team?
So these are your age group coordinators.
So I do it through the coordinator?
Yes, just reach out to these guys. So Ollie is pre-K and kindergarten.
Yeah.
Mac is first grade. Just reach out to them, let them know. And as I say, it's a little bit fluid, and we just try and move people around based on that, and that'll probably continue for the next week or two, just to try and get that. But and if we just can't find a team that works, then we would just refund them. But typically we're able to place everybody. I think it's the first year in many years where we've actually got a wait list, and we're struggling to find space for kids. But so as I say, I'm sure you've had emails from these guys already, but just as a reminder, that's who they are. If you've got any questions in your rosters or game schedules, reach out to those guys directly. They'll be able to help you that. I cannot help you with any roster or game schedule questions you might have. Unfortunately, I would just have to direct to them. I don't. They deal with all of that. I just don't. Probably most likely I don't have the answer for you if it's a question about that.
You can send the slide deck?
Yes, I will send out the slide deck. So that's an hour and 15 minutes. Appreciate your time. Yes.
Just a quick question. So with the kindergarten with no referee, we just keep our own time of the game, right?
Correct.
And then what if a parent wants to go on because their kid's a little shy at that age? Can they go on? Kindergarten?
I